Coming up on show 419, Fisker's crossover, why the Honda Clarity could be the best plug-in, and Tesla's website update that's quickly reversed. Well, all those stories and more on today's EV News Daily. Hello, it's Martyn Lee here. Thank you for listening to the show today. Once again, I'm on my travels. Yesterday's podcast from the car, today from another hotel room. So if it sounds echoey, that's why. When I did a show like this on holiday a couple of weeks ago, and I was in an apartment that had hard floors, and I had complaints. Well, a complaint. One email from someone saying, "Sounds like you're in the toilet, mate." Like, well, no, I'm on a holiday making a podcast whilst I'm meant to be having some time off, but thanks for your feedback. Anyway, today on the travels, and so that's why it sounds different to normal. Normal service will be resumed tomorrow, back home in the studio. Well, thank you as always to myev.com for helping make this show. It is the world's first marketplace all about buying and selling EVs. And if you want to check them out, myev.com. if you're in the USA. So let's kick off with a bit of news then about Fisker. I mentioned this recently on the podcast and got some new news from Inside EVs. Fisker have revealed their long-range electric crossover. And as Inside EVs points out, Stephen Loveday writing today that the sub-$40,000 price tag has once again been reiterated, which I mentioned on a previous podcast. I think is optimistic. We'll go with it. Stephen says that we told you a week ago that Henrik Fisker has been teasing an upcoming prototype. His plan was to further tease it today, actually, March the 18th. However, he was clear that it wouldn't be any official launch or live stream situation, but instead more of a tease. It's a tease of a tease. Of course, more details were to be divulged at this point. If you fast forward to today, then true to his word, then Henrik Fisker did come forth with some more information. It says InsideEVs.com today. The vehicle is still unnamed. We don't know what it's called, but we got some specs on it at last. 300 miles of range. 300 seems to be, well, 300 is the new 200, if you get my drift. 80 kilowatt hour battery pack is anticipated to be the minimum. It's a crossover variety style, $40,000. But that's for the base price. That's starting price. That's the headline grabbing price. Want a dual motor? Want the all-wheel drive? Yep, that's going to cost you more. Can you get a 300-mile EV for less than $40,000? I guess you can. I'll take you through his tweet, which was lunchtime today. Henrik Fisker said this, and I quote, "Fisker all-electric SUV coming in second half of 2021, less than $40,000. Standard battery over 80 kilowatt hours. Four-wheel drive, around 300-mile range, direct sales, franchised service." Thank you very much, Henrik Fisker, for your tweet. So that is kind of interesting, how far we have to wait, how far on the horizon. That is 2021, a super long time, especially at the moment. Again, regular listeners of the podcast will know that 2020, if you're new to the podcast, by the way, why is 2020 so significant? It's when, particularly here in Europe, there are new emissions rules kicking in. Now, all of this EV nonsense is really jolly annoying for the automakers. Frankly, it's frustrating that it happened so soon. They'd really rather EVs weren't happening. They put all of this investment into their factories and into production facilities, and then EVs blew up and took off. You see, they're having to pivot to EVs much sooner than they wanted. They don't want to sell them now. They don't want to sell you an EV in 2019. They want to wait till 2020 because that doesn't get round, but it helps out with emissions rules. Okay, so that's the deal. It's why there aren't more on the market right now. They could make them, and there are some automakers that are making great cars that just don't want to make many of them. That's why. So 2020, next year, is going to be a big year for EVs. We know that the Model 3 will be made in China, and that brings the price down. We know the VW ID goes on sale later this year. So 2021 for Fisker is all well and good. I'm just pointing out, I'm taking the long way to say this. He's going to be entering a very crowded marketplace. Talking of Tesla, earlier today they updated their website and then they reverted it pretty quickly. Well, Fred Lambert at Electrek says that Tesla earlier on today updated their website, and it said that the Model S and the Model X would be able to charge over 200 kilowatts. and then it got removed. Now, when the Tesla Supercharger V3 was launched earlier this month, my goodness, time flies, Tesla made clear it was only for the Model 3. And Model S and Model X owners weren't exactly upset because we know they drive great cars, but all they got was a small bump in speed to 145 kilowatt charge speeds, which, you know, for any other EV driver is still pretty good. Now, a Redditor did the math and looked at the update they put online earlier today on the Tesla website, and it says a 15-minute recharge time for the Model S and the Model X. So this Redditor did the maths, and it added up to about 210 kilowatts if you take the Model S long-range car to do that 15-minute charge time to get to the mileage they were talking about. That must be the speed. Was it a mistake? Hard to believe if it was. Someone's having a bad day right now as Elon is asking them nicely why they made that mistake. And if it wasn't a mistake, what's around the corner? Interesting. There's been so much speculation about a Model S and a Model X refresh in order to use the new chemistry in the new battery cells. And again, if you're new to the podcast, let me update you very quickly. The Tesla Model S and the X use an older type of cell, and it's still very current, by the way, still gets the job done. The Model 3 uses a newer type of battery, a new type of cell to make the battery. These new chargers they've released, though, are kind of inconvenient that the Model 3, the cheapest car they sell, actually charges way faster than their supposedly premium cars. And so that's an inconvenience. The S and the X should always have, if you ask me, the best possible specs, the best possible range, the best possible equipment, and then the Model 3 should be beneath that. At the minute, it's upside down, and that's why I wonder, is there a refresh? Is there a refresh coming? Or was this simply a web team getting their maths wrong? It's impossible to tell, but it's kind of interesting to talk about with you on the podcast. Back to Inside EVs and potential Chevy buyers. That would be buyers of the Bolt and the Volt, seem unswayed by a $7,500 tax credit because the tax credit is going to taper down, just as it did for Tesla at the beginning of the year. So the Volt and the Bolt still get their $7,500 federal tax rebate. Inside EVs, Wade Malone, actually back at Inside EVs, writing for this one. The Volt and the Bolt have been among the more popular plug-in vehicles in the US market. GM became the first traditional maker to hit 200,000 plug-in sales in the US. They achieved the milestone just a few months after Tesla, of course, a company that makes only EVs. So with the milestone comes the taper, and so that'll be tapering down. If you get a new Volt or a Bolt before March 31st, you can take advantage of that $7,500 federal tax credit. Or is it a rebate? I need to get my words sorted out. Obviously, I'm not in the US, so as far as I understand it, you pay your taxes, and then next year you get $7,500 off taxes that would be due next year. So no one's writing you a check for $7,500. That's as far as I understand it. Again, I am halfway around the world, so if ever my detail needs correcting, please do. So what's the deal with those buyers being unfazed by the tax credit taper that I mentioned a moment ago? Well, generally the first quarter of the year is, let's say, unkind to EV sales. Still, the upcoming credit change could be a great incentive for those potential Volt and Bolt buyers to pull the trigger, to make the move, to get it done now before they lose some money. Estimates by the Inside EVs team shows that the Bolt sales have been unremarkable. Volt sales significantly down in January and February, and based on the current inventory tracking, only expecting a slightly higher performance for both models in March. Like we say, the Volt's now out of production. They're selling off the inventory. I thought people would snap them up. A recent post by a GM Inside News forum user seems to back up the pessimistic sales estimates from Inside EVs. According to data provided by one of those users, just over 1,000 Bolts were sold in February. The Volt sales even lower, just over 500 for that. And I would have thought with the tax credit going down, tapering down, it goes to half in just a couple of weeks' time, people would be getting a move on and spending their money on a couple of great cars, two very different types of EVs, but still great cars. It appears not, though. New York City is our next story. Now, the city of New York say that electric cars are now the cheapest possible option of their fleet. Now, look, obviously they're doing some math themselves because they've got to keep budgets under control. Buying an electric car, though, is quite expensive. The sticker price for an EV is higher than the petrol car. The gasoline car takes something like the Hyundai Kona, a very, very cheap car here in the UK if you want one that burns fossils. If you want the electric version, it's a little bit more. That's a lie. It's a lot more. Actually, with the Kona, you can't get one at the moment. So Hyundai use online sales called Click to Buy, and it's currently taken off the website right now, and instead you can put your name down if you want. You can say, well, I'd quite like one in the future if possible. Oh, thank you, by the way, to Richard Dewhurst. Now, Richard Dewhurst sent me an email to say, I heard you talking about the Kona and the e-Niro, and you kind of got the two muddled up more than once as well. So yes, the e-Niro from Kia is a very long waiting list, but you still can give someone some money here in the UK to buy one of those. A dealer will take your cash, where it's the Hyundai Kona, you can't actually buy one at the moment. It's gone back to a waiting list because it got more than a year, so they took them off sale. Anyway, thank you, Richard, for that clarification. Back to New York City. Total cost of ownership, though, as we know for EVs, is far cheaper. And now fleet owners and those people that buy lots of cars for their fleet, they don't necessarily look at the sticker price. I'm sure it's a consideration in part of the grand scheme of things, but total cost of ownership, actually lifetime costs, maintenance, fuel, all of those things come out of your budget if you're running a fleet, so you need to know these things. And New York City have said actually they've crunched their numbers, and it's far better to be driving an EV around the city purely on economic terms, purely on the maths. The savings add up. Now, Quartz, the website QZ.com or QZ.com, Quartz asked New York City's fleet management agency the costs of each car model, including the purchase price, and they've looked at the numbers themselves, and they do hold up. For the Nissan Leaf, the all-electric Leaf, they say that it is much cheaper. It will save the city than buying an equivalent gas-powered car. So buy something like the Leaf rather than a gas-powered Ford, for instance, a Ford Fusion, and you are saving about $8,000, $9,000 over the lifetime of the car and the total cost of ownership. So it's great. EVs are more fun, they're better for the air, and they're so much cheaper over the long term. Let's talk about a plug-in hybrid that I don't have a huge amount of experience of, but I know that there's lots of love out there for the Honda Clarity plug-in hybrid. The best-selling plug-in hybrid right now, actually, in the US, says Eric Loveday Inside EVs Today. But is it the best plug-in hybrid available just because it's the best-selling one? Well, how far can you go in one of them? Officially, the Honda Clarity will do 47 miles of range on the EPA number, but many people say it can go further. The Chevy Volt will go further per charge, but we know production has ceased and dealers are just using up their inventory now, their stock. EV mode is not going to set the world alight. EV mode 0 to 60, 12.8 seconds. Hybrid mode 0 to 60, 9.5 seconds. But it could come very highly recommended. Lots of people are buying one right now, and there's a new YouTube video up, by the way, which Inside EVs have linked through. The YouTube video description says the Honda Clarity is a plug-in hybrid that's unique. It utilizes electric motors and a 1.5-litre inline engine under the hood, like the Chevy Volt. The engine is a generator, and this video shows you the ins and outs of the plug-in hybrid with a total range of 340 miles. I never like talking about the range, though, of hybrids because it does kind of flatter them. Obviously, it's got a tank full of gas, but I'll put a link to Inside EVs in the show notes if you want to know more. And finally, one of the most commonly asked questions about EVs: can they tow? I've never had a tow bar on any of my cars, but I know plenty of people do, and there's certain countries as well, places like Norway, if you watch Bjorn Nyland's videos, where towing is almost essential. Something like half the cars have got tow bars or something like that. Tesla's chief designer Franz von Holzhausen says that the recently revealed Model Y, yes, it will be equipped and it will be rated to tow. And this is new news. The Model 3 will eventually get a tow bar, according to a Norwegian site, Elbilen. Elbilen cites the Tesla Owners Club of Norway as the source of this information. Newly launched Model Y will have a tow bar. That's what the chief designer says of the electric car when we met him, says the website, at the Model Y launch. Of course, we asked if the Model 3 will ever get a tow bar, and he said, yes, but when? His short answer is soon. So that's kind of interesting. The Model 3 has never been rated to tow until now. Not a concern of many people, but lots of people do want to be able to tow with their EV. So that's fantastic news. Obviously, the Model X is rated to tow because you see so many people using those to haul things around. So we'll keep an eye on all of those stories. And it's been another really busy day for EV News. Thank you for listening to the show once again. Let's get on to our question of the week, set by myev.com. Keep your comments coming in on the email and on the YouTube comments. It's this. How would you like to be billed when you are rapid charging out of home? Would you like contactless? Would you like a monthly bill? Would you like to be part of a membership scheme? I've got a few RFID cards and fobs and things in the car, not too many. So I'm traveling today, and really rarely, very rarely actually, there are some ultracharge units, some rapid chargers that are now owned by BP, as in British Petroleum, and they're normally super reliable. And the first one I went to in London today, southwest London actually, tripped out. The Renault Zoe made the Zoe make an awful noise, and then all the lights turned red and it totally tripped it out. So moved on from that one to the next Polar charger that I could find, and it did the same thing. So that's super rare. Moved on to the third Polar charger to charge the Zoe. They are 43 kilowatt AC chargers. Worked fine. Did my key fob, plugged it in, looked up, and there's a massive sign saying you may no longer use this charger. It's for taxis only. Anyone found at this site will get a penalty charge notice. And I'm already plugged in, so it's a bit late for that. So if they're going to fine me based on whether I've started charging, and again, that's really rare for the Polar network, which I've always had great experiences of. So a big sign had been laminated and stuck to the charger that said, if you use this and you're not a taxi, you're going to be fined. And it's weird because it shows up on the official Polar app. So I moved on, and I moved on to a network called ESB. Now, I'm not a member of them, but they do contactless, and so I've been driving around for an hour and a half by now, and I get to that charger, and I went to pay contactless, and it's not accepting contactless payments. But fear not, 5 minutes down the road is another charger by this network, ESB. Got to that. You've guessed it, not accepting contactless payments today. Fear not. There is a Shell Recharge, which is new. Again, putting chargers, rapid chargers on forecourts of petrol stations. Another 5 minutes down the road. Looked at the ZapMap app here in the UK, and it said a week ago, this is a week ago, mind, but the last review was totally out of order. It's been boxed in, whatever that means. So I didn't even try that one. So, I'm currently sitting with a half-full EV outside the hotel. I've got enough charge to get halfway home again, and it's fine. I can charge on the motorway, but I just wanted to get a full battery and then not have to think about it. And I had the worst experience of charging tonight. What should have been easy, I'm in the capital city I'm in London, and it was 2 hours of driving around, of chargers not working, of this new rule of only taxis using what was before absolutely fine to use. So, I've been very lucky, I must admit, over the years, but a less ideal situation today. So, that's my story today. That's my experience of this evening. How would you like to be billed? Would you like to be part of, sign up and get key fobs? Do you want monthly billing? Do you want contactless? Let me know. You can email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. Well, thank you very much to 203 patrons of the podcast, whose generosity means that I get to make this show. Got another new patron to announce on tomorrow's show as well. There are 418 previous episodes online for free. If you'd like to download any of them, hit that subscribe button. So whether you are in, lots of people do, by the way, if you are listening in iTunes on your Apple device, your Android device, hit subscribe. If you're on YouTube where the audio goes, hit subscribe, and then you get the show first and free and automatically before everybody else. In the meantime, come and say hi on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. If you search EV News Daily, you'll find me. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And even as I was driving around today trying to find a charger that worked, even then, I thought this is still better than driving a self-charging hybrid.